This is Matt Crane from MGMT Boston. On this episode of Lantern, we have David Chang, one of Boston's best entrepreneurs, builders, angel investors. The list goes on. His portfolio is effectively endless. David, thank you so much for being here. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
Thanks for coming on over. Really appreciate the time.
So first and foremost, how would you describe yourself? And then lead us right into the next most important question. Like, what are you seeing in the market in Boston, whether it's through TBD Angels or up your work, networking across the city?
So I consider myself a startup guy. As you mentioned before, I have been in Boston for now 25 years,
Amazing.
which seems insane to me, especially since I thought 2 years in New England was as much as I was going to spend time up here, but got totally pulled into startup land. And so when I think about like what I do, I'm an operator, entrepreneur. I've started a couple companies. I've been super lucky to be part of now 6 companies that were acquired by other bigger companies. And I'm really lucky to get to work with the next generation of founders. And through TBD Angels, we've done about 90 angel investments. I'm one of the co-founding members as part of that group. Probably have about 300 angels. 170 of them are in the New England area. And we get to see a ton of stuff that's based out of here. And so lucky to just support the next generation of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We're seeing a ton in Boston. I think if you look at just the sheer number of startups that are coming out of big companies, small companies, out of universities, there's just an endless group of people to choose from. And so we are seeing a lot of different entrepreneurs that are super appealing to back these days.
Yeah, that's great. Now, one of the reasons we're sitting here is Techstars Startup Weekend is coming up, and David is going to be one of the judges for the teams that come together and build things throughout the weekend. So, what are you excited about when it comes to that event, which is a great one? And what are you looking to see in teams? What are some of those intangible things that get you excited?
Yeah, Techstars Boston, the Startup Weekend is such a blast. If you haven't been to it before, and I think you have, it brings together tons of really great founders, first and foremost. And so whether it's an idea they had for a short period of time where they're just coming up with, oh, you know what, I think we have a little traction, to other startups that may have a little bit more traction and they're just looking for that breakaway moment. That Startup Weekend just brings them all into one place. One of my favorite parts about that is reconnecting with people across the whole ecosystem. I often sort of joke that when I walk into one of these rooms, like I know it's a successful event if I don't know someone who's there. And inevitably, even though I feel like I'm a pretty big connector, it happens. And so you meet new people, you meet new founders. My favorite part of these weekends is finding someone new that I have not connected with before. And it ranges from the first-time founder that moved to the Boston area from another part of the world and is building a company here because they started to go to school here and they wanted to stay here, to the other connectors or people that have been here like forever that I've just never actually got to interact with. And so that weekend is just like this weird mix of it's a little bit of like a Facebook feed. Sometimes you get like your high school friends, your college friends, your work friends all in one place. And that's what the weekend is.
That's amazing. Now, you've done a ton in your career. You mentioned, starting companies, joining them, successfully exiting them. What are some of those things that you reflect back on your career that you would tell founders, up and coming operators, other builders throughout Boston and beyond about what it takes to build successful companies?
Yeah, I've probably made more mistakes. And I'm sure you hear this from other people, like made more mistakes than made the right decisions. And through the mistakes, you learn a ton. And so I'll give maybe one don't and maybe one do. One of the don'ts is don't pigeonhole yourself into something that's too small, right? And so I made this mistake when pitching for one of my first startups where I thought a great return for the investor on the other side would be like a 1.5x return or 2x return. You're laughing over there. That's like, hey, so-and-so investor, why wouldn't you want to put like $1 million in this thing and after 6 or 7 years get 1.5 out? That's awesome, right?
Good return.
And yeah, it is. Right? And what I didn't realize was in order for this venture to succeed, in order for the economics to work, you really have to paint that big picture. And so don't pigeonhole yourself into this little thing. And so when you do that pitch, especially for the Techstars Boston Startup Weekend folks, make sure to paint that really big picture. And it doesn't mean lie, right? It means imagine all the things go right. You're at this stage now, a couple things are going to go right. You're going to build something that's pretty cool. You're going to get a first couple customers. It's going to be bigger. Great. How do you take that next level and grow and grow and grow? And so that's to do, right? So paint that really big picture and assume everything goes right. And that's the thing that you want to describe.
And what about the do?
The do for me is make sure you find the right team members. I've probably made more mistakes in terms of just like the typical person, in terms of finding maybe the wrong people to work with. And so that usually happens when you get enamored of a space or enamored of a team. Oh, this sounds really good on paper, but you don't really kick the tires.
Right.
And so I made a ton of early stage mistakes pretty early in my career where I ended up finding teams that like look great on paper, but I just wasn't a great mix for.
Sure.
And so it's like, oh, this startup sounded really awesome. I'd go pretty far down the interview path, and it turns out it just wasn't really a good fit. And so for me, finding those people that are complementary, that can withstand the tough times, that you work with well, and ultimately when you go through and fight this battle in the trenches with them, that you could get to win with them, that's the to-do. So find the other complementary folks.
Yeah. This is David Chang, the co-founder of TBD Angels, and much more. Matt Crane from MGMT Boston in this episode of Lantern. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.